the most trusted financial advice is both the human being advisor and the AI. When you get advice from both groups, you trust it more. So
you're basically confirming.
Right. So the trust but verify, right?
Well, Matt, welcome to your second show on the Land and Everything Else podcast. We're so happy to have you. And really great to see you here. I know, Matt, we've sort of intertwined like those rings that you have at school that you rip each day before the end of the year, like cardboard rings. I feel like that's us. Did you ever make those?
Our lives have intertwined, but I don't know what you're talking about.
So am I a crazy person here? This is going to be good, though. So like towards the end of growing up, you'd always make these cardboard rings that would intertwine, and then you'd rip one every day towards the end, and you could see the days progress until the end of the year. All right, well, we're going with it. We're leaving it in. And those people that are my age will know what I'm talking about. But we have intertwined quite a bit. We overlapped at the American College. We've both been really involved in CFP reviews. You've been at CFP board. I've just volunteered there, so you've got me on that one. And we both worked with CFP review companies together. So good to see you, man.
Good to see you too. Thank you for having me back.
Beautiful day in your city today.
Yes, in downtown Chicago. Beautiful.
So tell us a little bit about your background and what you're up to.
More than what you just covered.
More than what I covered.
Okay, how about we'll go backwards.
And you can talk about how you'd get ready for the end of the year in elementary school as well, if you'd like to cover that.
It's been a long time. I think we are both blessed with baby faces.
Yeah.
But so we're much older than we look, I think.
That's true.
So I now am the Chief Strategy Officer for Brett Danko Educational Center as of March this year, 2025.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you. March 2025 exam cycle, we are the most popular CFP review in the country, which I didn't know. Nobody knows. We're like the best kept secret. And then we also do education. We do CE, that sort of thing. Before now, I was running the Dalton Education CFP program. Before that, as you said, I worked for CFP board. Before that, I was the CFP program director at the American College.
And before that, I was the CFP program director
I took over for
College.
you.
So that's one bit of overlap.
Right. You kind of gave me that.
Oh, hardly.
And I was Baby Craig is what they called me.
Sorry for that. That's a horrible thing to be called. That's just awful.
Oh, it was great. It was an honor. And then I was a professor at Georgia. I was briefly a professor at Berkeley doing cultural psychology because I made a career transition out of research psychology, cultural psychology into financial planning. And so I've got that whole other career. So I'm all over the place.
Yeah, but it's been a fun run. And you're probably only a third of the way done with it. So you got a ton in
what's
front
next?
Of you, man.
No, I really enjoy the current job. I really enjoy working with students. Presley popped out of the office here and was like, where the hell is Matt? I was talking to a student. So it's really cool to be able to engage with students like that and not just work back office.
Well, that's pretty cool. And so, today in Land and Everything Else, we've spent a lot of time talking about alts and farmland. And I think today we're going to take a dive into education. I'd like to touch on AI a little bit today with you because I know we both have made some posts to that end on social media. Right. And so I think we could start there and pivot around to educating because we both have that background. But, I've heard a lot of, provocative statements of like, the financial advisor is dead, that the need for CFP professionals is going to ebb and job markets are going to get tight. Where do you land with the world of AI?
Some of that I think is overblown, very overblown. I think broadly, not only in financial planning, but across all industries, all careers, the world is going to get more AI. It's going to get more efficient, more automated on one side.
Okay.
And partly because of a reaction to that, it's going to get more relationship focused, more tight community groups, more tight like relationships. So the kind of advisor that's really focused on those relationships and the individual people and talking to them like a human being, those people I think are going to be totally fine, just fine. or if anything, maybe even better off. Like, I think the industry is going to push more into that. And I think the kinds of folks that at least you and I often interact with, for anyone who's involved with organizations like the FPA, I think that kind of advisor, you're going to be okay. The folks who are really transactional, who treat financial advising writ large like I'm just actually selling you something,
Sure.
I think those are the folks who might be in trouble. Some of them would be put out of work by AI, but others I think are then just going to switch over and have more of those deep relationships.
And, I think your background in psychology lends itself to this conversation in a way a lot of people don't have that background. As far as communicating with families, building deeper relationships, do you see a world where ChatGPT, we start trusting it like a friend, or is there sort of this, right now I feel that there's a bit of a wall where people aren't necessarily going to, they may ask advice, but they may not follow the advice that ChatGPT gives. There's sort of a trust breakdown between, hey, you should do these 8 things to, oh, should I? Like, maybe I should still talk to someone. I don't know. I see that there's a bit of a trust issue, but with your background, I'd love for you to dive into that.
Yeah, well, so I think generally that's true, but I think we do have to at least mention, like, there are people who are using ChatGPT like a therapist. There's people using it like a romantic partner.
Really?
Right? This is happening.
Okay.
And certain folks who have some mental trauma, who maybe struggle to relate to other folks, there's an increasing number of people who are closeting themselves off and are like living in this world where AI is, So, okay, is that typical? Is that average?
Right.
No, but that is happening. And so someone's going to like at us and be like, oh, but what about this person? It's like, okay, yes, I recognize those are happening. I think, though, what you're saying is going to become kind of typical. And an article just came out a couple of days ago, like the most trusted financial advice is both the human being advisor and the AI. When you get advice from both groups, you trust it more. So
you're basically confirming.
Right. So the trust but verify, right?
Right.
You might say, oh, what should I do with this Roth or this whatever? Okay, I think I now know enough to be dangerous. Let me run this against the human being. And I think there's a really strong parallel with like the WebMD sort of thing. I have these symptoms. Oh, could be cancer. All of it could be cancer. So let me now go to a doctor. Right. I don't think physicians around the country are saying that damn WebMD, I'm out of a job.
Absolutely not. In fact, I'd argue we probably still need more physicians, right? So that hasn't really impacted that profession. I don't think negatively. Maybe you have a little more hypochondria, or you might have, people trying to prescribe themselves medicine, to the extent I need this drug.
Sure.
But
in both medicine and in financial planning, though, I think like a little bit of that hypochondria can be good. Like, I might have a serious illness. Let me go get this checked out, right? I would rather have the false positive. I'd rather have someone maybe has a severe illness, goes to the doctor, oh, you're overreacting.
Sure.
Versus underreacting.
And not going at all, and then having bad outcomes.
And the same sort of thing in financial planning, right? Like, maybe I'm going to get hit with some really bad tax outcomes. Maybe I'm not saving enough for retirement.
Let me go verify that. I like that perspective. So I have another element for you. You're in the thick of it with helping people prepare for high stakes exams, right? That's where you're at right now, designing strategy, teaching, in the live classroom, the online classroom, I imagine products too. And to that end, one of the things that you've seen sort of implied, we haven't really seen it roll out yet, could an AI tool pass the CFP exam swimmingly, right?
Yeah.
Without, in 4 seconds, I think that would be the answer I would give.
It does very well.
And I've been on stage and I've loaded questions in and it's kicked them out correctly and it gets the room kind of gasping in awe. But I think that will pass, right? We all accept the fact that the database of knowledge is going to be the database of knowledge. When you're teaching out there, how do you address that? Like, how does that come up? Like, do you have students today going, why do I need to know this? On a like if you can just plug it in, do I need to, like, where do you see this world?
Well, okay, that last bit, do I get a lot of students saying like, why do I need to know? No, I don't get a lot of that.
Good.
Now, we are working with folks who generally speaking have a few years in the industry already.
Yeah.
They've interfaced
you
with,
would,
right? So that's kind of on our end of things. So I think
Sure.
those people have already self-selected. Like they know the power of the human connection in a way where I know you're usually more working with undergraduates and they don't have
Sure.
that experience. So maybe there's less of that,
Yeah.
intuitive understanding. But I do think there are folks who are thinking about this, like, do we really need to know as much of the weeds, right? Couldn't I Google it? Couldn't I ask the AI?
Well,
I think there's a growing skepticism of do I really need to know?
So that to me is kind of an interesting point, and we're going deep in education. So if you came for farmland, maybe wait for the next one. But if you're here for a good convo, please listen in. I looked back last year. I opened the drawer to my office, right? And I had this stack of dead calculators. Right?
Yeah, sure.
And I was like, when is the last time I've taught someone how to use one of these? Now, you're in a point where the CFP exam to this day still uses a calculator, so you're going to have to teach those skills,
That's right.
Probably to my students, so thank you. But we get into this point where we're like, okay, you need to know present value, future value, all that stuff. Or you need to know all the stuff. You need to know payments. You need to know cash flows. But, do I just need to teach you the Excel formulas? Do I just need to teach you the prompt? At what level are you competent? And I know ChatGPT can do any kind of time value money equation, and so can Copilot, and so can Claude. So, where do we teach that? And I think that's a good question, right?
Sure.
Because CFP wants you to be able to do it by hand. I respect that. I get it. You want someone to understand the foundation.
Right.
But, advisors in the field, where's that headed? I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So I think we split these things up.
Sure.
And I first talk literally CFP exam.
Yes.
Okay. I'm not the CFP board whisperer.
You're not.
I did work there. I don't know the future there. And the test is written by volunteers.
Yes, it is.
Who knows exactly what they're thinking.
I've been one. It was fun.
Yeah.
I was the chair for a little bit.
Oh, right.
It was
on.
a good time, yeah.
I've heard it is a really good time from a few
It
folks.
is.
So I don't expect that the exam itself is going to change radically or fundamentally in the next few years. I think by the time you were watching this, it's the same as it is today.
Yeah.
So we are going to keep teaching to the exam. And I think our students recognize we are teaching them to the exam, right?
Well, and then they're trying to they see the value in the certification.
Sure. And I think there's a lot of value in it.
Yeah.
Then there's how much of this is going to be applicable in the real world. We still teach, the big we,
Yes, big
still
we.
teach folks
Royal we.
how to do the nuts and bolts of the time value money,
Yeah.
fully expecting them to use financial planning software.
Right.
Not just a little calculator, but the full package.
Course.
But they've got to understand when the input makes sense. Is this intuitively reasonable or is it not? And then if you need to troubleshoot something, you can go further. In the same sort of way that I think, to keep using the medical example or a legal example, I don't expect my lawyer to have every single thing memorized or the doctor every single thing memorized, but I need them to know really rapidly, does this make sense? Are we even in the ballpark of reasonable? Right. And if not, okay, let's open this thing up and start unpacking.
And I think with age and experience and wisdom and lots of practice comes the ability to eyeball something. I think you and I are both in a world where if you gave us an approximate situation, we could probably come pretty close with what mathematically would be an answer. Just because you've seen it 1,000 times, right?
Yeah.
Just kind of get that down. I think advisors are in the same boat, right? You see the same thing over and over and over again, you're going to wind up in that space. So there is definitely a beauty of practicing. There's a beauty of repetitive elements there. But I do think, I do wonder when the calculator is gone.
And sure.
I do wonder because, you even look at spreadsheet Excel tools, and this is very niche and very much to you and I, right? And it's 80% of people are like, come on guys, let's move. But I do think that's important there. I think it's going to happen one day.
Well, let's go back to the 1970s, right?
Right.
When these calculators were first coming out, I guarantee you there were folks saying you've still got to do it by hand.
Oh, of course.
If you use the calculator, you're missing something. Well, now we're in the era of you got to know how to use the 5-function TVM equation. Well, we'll see how long this lasts. The do it by hand folks, you had to do it by hand for maybe
many
years.
Yeah, you got an annuity table, but other than that, right? And I think that speaks to automation and the speed of the world around us too, and scale, which is where AI really shines, is the ability to scale and build scale up practices and scale up content development and scale up all the things.
Right. Yeah. And to get this idea of the industry is going to kind of do this, I think we're going to offload a lot of those scalable, repetitious activities to the AI, because why wouldn't you? Like, let's not compete against this machine that's so much better at repetition than we are, which then frees us up to do the work that is still meaningful to people, the relationships and all that at least for now, an AI doesn't seem to do as well.
So let me go back to your psychology background, because I think it's really important in where the profession goes from here, right? We have spoken and had conversations, and I've had them with other advisors too, about the role of a financial advisor and wealth manager becoming almost more into generational therapy, generational conversations, goals, values, fears, hopes, dreams, and away from how much can I spend?
Yeah.
Do you see that, and how can we help people prepare for that world?
Oh, I've seen that, and not just very recently, but going back 15 years, 20 years. Some folks who are now, I think towards the end of their career, like George Kinder's been around since the 80s, I think, doing this kind of work, but it's certainly become mainstream, right? Where I think if you go back to the 80s and you would say something like what you just said, it'd be like, no, there's a technical aspect you have to have, versus now I think it's table stakes to be able to have those kinds of conversations. And I think those conversations are where the real value is happening now and is increasingly going to happen. If you can't differentiate yourself from the chat bot, from the calculator, you're going to have a really difficult time having someone pay you what we all expect to be paid.
Now, how do you prep for that? How do you go to somebody studying, either a career changer coming into our profession, somebody in college, either way? How do you prep somebody for that world?
So you had mentioned before the experience aspect. And so part of it is you've got to get your reps. Like, it's difficult to teach empathy. It's something that you kind of work on. If you mentioned like the career changes, I think there's some folks coming in from certain careers who already have those reps, who've already got that practice. Teachers, nurses, I think, make incredible financial planners because they come in with that background already. And for me, coming in from the psychology background, I think I had a real leg up. My technical skills weren't as good as folks who started in finance or something, but the other social aspects were a little bit easier for me to get going. I look at programs like yours, other undergraduate programs have incredible opportunities. Like University of Georgia has what used to be called the Aspire Clinic.
Okay.
They recently changed the name to something else. But this is an experiential learning center where all those students go in and do role-playing exercises with not the professors or whatever, but with people in the community. And they do pro bono advising where hundreds and hundreds of folks from the community come in, and those undergrads are able to get those reps in early. And a lot of firms are introducing similar kinds of programs where, with supervision, some of the less experienced advisors are able to sit in on those meetings and model what the other senior advisor is doing, and then work with their own clients and get those reps.
I think empathy is a fantastic example, and also, meaningful construct in financial planning. But yeah, you don't start at 22 with a worldview, right? You start at 22 with how you grew up. And I use the analogy a lot in class that, I remember having this wake-up call early in my career. My first 5 years out were with Lincoln Financial Advisors, and it was an incredible experience for me in those 5 years. And it was a share insurance model, right? Mm-hmm. And so that was good to learn the pressures of that, because I think it helps me relate to that now. But, I'll never forget sitting in a kitchen with a couple talking about their adult children and college, how they're going to pay for college. Mm-hmm. And it was a huge wake-up call, because I defaulted to how my parents paid for mine.
Sure.
It had never occurred to me at 23 that, oh my God, there's 1,000 ways to do this and none of them are wrong, right? And so I kind of had this moment where in my world, my first 2 years were taken care of, and then I had to pay for room and board. So I, worked the last 2 years some, and then that created who we are. But, in this case, mom wanted to pay for everything. Dad didn't want to pay for anything. And it's hard not to spin dad as the bad guy, right? For me, it's like as a young advisor. Sure. But I remember walking away from that with this light going on, being like, no, it's just 2 more ways to do it, right? And so the reps, you have to get the reps, right?
Yeah, I mean, I maybe speak for myself, but I think for most of the junior folks when they first get in, I really got the sense wrongly that there is a right way of doing it.
I know.
Right? Like this is the most efficient way of paying down debt, for example.
Yeah, sure.
And I bring that up because, my God, does our profession love to hate on Dave Ramsey. And his way of doing it is not efficient because you pay more interest over time and you should focus on the highest interest rates. Oh, my God. I get it. And I know, but who cares? Because if that works for you, the client, if Dave's approach is the approach that's going to get you to finally get a hold on your finances, I'm going with that all day.
Right.
And if this way of thinking about your retirement is going to make you do things that are in your best interest and your family's best interest, awesome, let's do that. The technical aspect maybe is a place to start or roughly aim for, but there is no one right answer. And with experience, with seeing the diversity of all these life experiences, I think folks move away from that one right answer into this really intentional, what's right for you, the client? What stories can you tell yourself that this makes sense? What behaviors do you need to engage in that are really going to move the needle? And that's what's important, not the math.
And I think to that end, you've just laid the case for the human advisor. Right? I can go into ChatGPT and I can put in any financial situation. It can tell me how much to save. It would tell me which credit cards to pay down first. But the human advisor element's not there, right? Getting someone moving in the right direction. I think that's the goal we all have.
Right.
And financial advisors have, and it's why we're in education too, to get more people doing that.
Sure.
But I think the worldview is tough, and I like that perspective on where we go from here in AI. So I'm going to pivot a little bit into some other, I think, education experiences that folks will find interesting. One thing that we have in common is that Matt and I have both taught very large online classes, right? Very large online classes, and to adults and to young adults, right? We both had those experiences. Where do you balance like scale and spending time with people and help? Like, how do you balance all that when you're teaching 1,000, 2,000 people?
Yeah. Well, I think the answer to that is, to the extent we are in any way famous, that's both of our claim to fame,
that's
right?
True.
I think we both got pretty good at balancing that. And again, kind of like the AI human thing, there are certain ways of delivering content that are really efficient and really scalable. I mean, and very simple stuff like record yourself giving a lecture and make that recording engaging and fun. And you're so good at this. I've seen so many of your videos, you're posting on LinkedIn, or you have a few of these classes, and it's like, yeah, these are just fun to watch.
Campy. I believe that education should be just the right amount of campy, because make fun of me, have fun with it, but you're going to pay more attention if it's a little silly. If I'm talking about inflation and juggling oranges, it's funnier. And is it a dad joke? Sure. Is it kind of dumb? Yeah, but it's campy.
Right.
It gets people to pay attention.
Edutainment.
A little bit.
Phrase that I really love. Yeah. Right. And everyone's got their own sense of humor and their own personality and style, I think should come out even in the asynchronous stuff, even in the recorded content. And you can have the practice questions and written content, and you're taking content in a way where you're matching the content to the optimal way of delivering that content. It's not, there's only one way of doing it. It's the multimodal. There's different ways of doing it. And that stuff can live off on the side and be very scalable. Some people also want to throw on gamification. They want to throw on chatbots. Okay, great. There's ways that you can do that really efficiently. But then on the other side of it, you really, I think, need the live component, the synchronous component, where it's the students and the instructor again, matching the right content to the right delivery. So I mentioned earlier, I was on the phone with someone right outside, and without the details of it, they were kind of panicking a little bit, and rightfully so. High stakes exam, like you said, right?
It is.
That kind of conversation that I just had outside is not a conversation you have with 300 other people on the line, right?
No, you can't.
That's a one-on-one conversation. So synchronous, me and her together in a one-on-one setting. And then you've got the lecture bit where you can have a bunch of people in the room at the same time. I'm a real big fan of doing breakout rooms during those synchronous sessions so that you then boil it down to only maybe 3 to 5 people working together. So trying to think constantly what stuff should be living on its own in an extremely scalable way, what stuff does need to boil down all the way to the individual one-on-one. And you can offer courses that have all of these things.
Sure. And I think to some extent, when I look at how I plan things out, what's evergreen and what's not evergreen is your very first delineation. If this is evergreen, then either I'm going to say the same thing 4,000 times, right? And maybe I could just invest in that and make a really great 3 minutes. Right. And then that evergreen is there. You know what evergreen? CPI is evergreen. Inflation is evergreen. Let's do that really well. And then we have it, right?
Right.
What's not evergreen? Solving for a particular case or client or customer. We're going to change that out on a constant basis. The big beautiful bill or whatever we're calling it, right? Like those aren't evergreen. Taxes isn't evergreen. So there's I think in my world, if we're going to deliver live, I'm going to try to deliver the evergreen in a way that everyone can look at it and it's fun.
Right.
But when it comes to non-evergreen content, then you start thinking like, how can we move this and keep it accurate? Right. And so that to me is one of those things. The second thing I've run into, higher ed wise is there's a place for a capstone class that is in person. And maybe we bring in some advisors. And every schools do it different, and every program does it different. But maybe we bring in advisors, and maybe we bring in people, and maybe we bring in mock cases, and maybe we change it up every year. And maybe that one-on-one time, or 40 on one time, or 50 on one time, is I don't know if that would be a good asynchronous experience.
Yeah, and
I always struggled with it at the very large place we both worked.
Well, but I was going to say
I struggled with it.
That capstone course, how I got my start or near my start at the American College was working with you on your capstone course.
It was so hard to scale that designed.
It was hard to scale. And so you did a really great pass at kind of from almost nothing. You kind of built that up. And then I got a few cycles of that, and we found ways of leveraging group work where that made a lot of sense.
That does make more sense.
We had these synchronous and the asynchronous. And so, I was there another 3.5 years or something after you were gone. And just those multiple iterations of how can we do this better? How can we do this better? And we were able to scale that one up a bit more, but there certainly are limits there. And the idea of having that kind of course be scaled up and having a little bit of a hybrid, I think Hannah Moore's externship is kind of like a capstone course.
I think so.
Fantastic
Wonderful
work that she's doing. Yeah. I think a lot of what Cody Garrett's doing with the Measure Twice planners, fantastic work. There's lots of folks who are blending these courses in a way where it's a little bit async, a little bit in person. And like you're saying, when can you bring in those experts and have them add that much more color?
And I think to the end, if you're listening in, and you don't know what externship is, you should look into it.
Yeah, Google
Hannah Moore's externship, and Cody Garrett's been on our podcast and had a great conversation with him. One thing I really like about Cody is that, we were talking about rental houses, and how if you go to one of the many financial planning software packages out there, you want to put a mutual fund in, we're ready to go. ETFs, we're good. Some even go so far as to variable annuity subclasses, we gotcha. Rental house, right? Yeah. You got to model your own. You got to put your own cash flow in. You got to put the asset in, depreciation, God help, right? Like that's your good luck there.
Sure.
And then, if you want to refinance the thing, good luck, right? So what I found interesting talking with Cody was this idea of like, you still can use Excel, buddy. You don't have to throw everything in there. Yeah. You still have these tools you can create.
That's right. And I think he's one of the best at doing that, of kind of thinking on his feet. Cody, if you're listening, You're doing awesome. Big fan of you. And you had mentioned something about evergreen. We're like geeking out on education.
That's what I do for a living. That's my podcast. Let's run with it.
So what if Craig said evergreen and you're like, what the hell is he talking about? That just means you never have to change it. You can set it and forget it.
And if you invest some production value in it, it lasts for a while.
Yeah, for years
I say
and years.
to this day, as this is my 9th year at Illinois, I'm still in some American college stuff. It's been 9 years.
And as am I. It's incredible because, if you put the care in, it can last for a while. And so it's one thing where we say, okay, this is clearly evergreenable and this needs the touch. If you are an educator and you are going to run into cases where your content is kind of on the fringes, like, is this evergreen? Is it not? And I would also encourage you to look for ways to make your content even more evergreen. Mm-hmm. And just to give you a really simple example, which is hopefully intuitive, it's very common for programs like ours to include those tax adjustable numbers every year.
Yep.
The annual exclusion for gift tax, right? So in your own content, avoid putting that actual number in there.
Oh, no, never.
And just say
rookie move.
The annual exclusion. Right. And just taking that extra time to think, can I make this evergreen, is going to save you so much time in the long run.
It is, because I don't think I'll ever forget sitting around Scott's table with his cats in Plano, and we would have to update questions with new tax numbers and exemptions. And if you were testing an MAGI phase out, that you always had to rewrite that to still catch the phase out. Right?
Painful.
And I just remember that kind of over and over again part. And,
right. So those little efficiencies, right? Again, we're kind of keep touching on this. Where's the value in the automated? Where's the value in the human doing that work? There's no value there, right? That's wasting your time where you could be focusing on students. And another tip for those educators out there, which I don't see much of, I'm actually curious if you do the thing I'm about to say, is creating content maps. So a content map is like an index of all of the content in your courses. Mm-hmm. Here's this particular concept that I'm teaching. Here's the lecture video that I have on it. Here's the practice question that I have. Here's the final exam item. And these maps are like enormous spreadsheets. And using those can save you incredible amounts of time, or eventually, because you're teaching to this particular content and you're then testing on it, and it all relates.
I would add this, and it's funny how a career moves from, okay, I'm going to build my reputation and I'm going to build my capital, to I'm going to help train young faculty.
Right.
It just happens one day, right? You look up and you're like, oh, there's 3 people I'm 15 years older than. I should help them. But I think it's hard sometimes for somebody new to see past the amount of work it takes to develop a really solid online curriculum and do it well, and to realize that yes, it's going to suck for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, but then the next 10 you're going to be able to do so many more things, right? But I struggle with it. At Illinois a little bit, is this pushback of live greater than online. And I'm well, it's sort of a naive perspective, because crappy online isn't very good. Me at a webcam waxing philosophical isn't very good. Yeah. But if I take the time to invest in something that's really quality, I can use that for years, right? And then you save yourself that time in the classroom and you're delivering a better product to the student, So I struggle with that a little bit, trying to incentivize new and young faculty to make those investments at a time when their time is taxed. But yet, if you make those investments, I think it pays off in incredible dividends. But it's getting that message across can be kind of tough.
Absolutely. And it's then the doubling down on that, the yes and is dedicate the time to making on the front end the content look really good and it's polished and all those things. And then also that back end organization.
The back end organization is critical, because if you don't, let me give you an example. We had the opportunity to work with a external, offering platform called Coursera, where anyone in the public can reach out. So Illinois inked a deal with Coursera, and they were like, all right, so if you're Illinois faculty, you can create classes on this Coursera platform. And the revenue sharing from Coursera does not go in Craig's pocket, but it does go in our financial planning department's pocket, right? So it goes to what I do every day, which lets us do things like rent, cool air, and bees for podcasts, right? Like money from that can pay for these sort of stuff. Because we had good back-end indexing, yes, we created 6 classes on alternative investments using this podcast. We used clips from the podcast. We created 6 great classes and other content too, right? We had some fun videos, and you've seen me with ping pong ball buckets and stuff. I had fun with that. But one of the things we were able to do was, because we'd indexed really well, I put together a class called Investing and Building Wealth, and 90% of it I'd already done. And so 90% of it was, oh, hey, I've got a whole series on what's a security and what's a stock and what's a bond. Let's put that in. Oh, hey, I created this where you should be in your 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s when I worked with this company. Oh, let's put that in. And next thing you know, oh, I redid the whole time value of money for this class, and we poured production value in it. It's just on YouTube. Hey, let's put that in. Next thing you know, we created an asynchronous class because of the back indexing. Right. And had we not done that, and to give you an idea, we're up to about 1,000 users in that class so far, and it's like $50 a pop. Now, of course, I didn't get 50 grand off it. Sure. Someone did, but the idea there, it gets split a lot. But in the end, that had a true value, like in my world, of having that done well.
Absolutely. And then if you really get that indexing down, not only that particular video, but then the associated practice
and
questions
the assessments
or whatever.
that go with it. And, and that we did all that. Yeah. So I think that's the wisdom of doing it. And you see real dollars flowing to Illinois financial planning because of the investment on the front end and the indexing on the back end. But you try to convince a new assistant professor, you need to give me a few months of your time. It's hard.
Right. Yeah.
It's hard.
And okay, so we're really geeking out on the education. I think that same logic applies really easily, analogously to the financial planning. Like, do you have a really good
Thank you for saving us from ourselves. I like that you took that step.
So like you've got these modules, so to speak, these content that you can send out to clients. If you know how all this content's connected to each other, you have it organized in the back end. Oh man, it saves incredible amounts of time. The advisor that I got my start with, Ashley Murphy, at RIA called Arete, fantastic job doing this kind of thing. And so his efficiency is through the roof for the same reasons, right? You have a new client with their own concerns. He's got an entire system set up where during these intake calls, I'm a client who's got this goal and that issue, and they go down this list. And then that back end that he's set up pre-populates what's kind of like a course.
I love it.
To go through with that client for the next however many months.
Right.
So the prep work for that client.
The prep work's there. The assessment. I mean, the prep work's there. Anyone on the team can pick it up and run with it. Right. Because it's well documented, and it's all about setting processes up.
Yeah.
Which I think goes back to the first of our conversation, right? AI is really good at setting processes up and using processes. So it kind of comes full circle as much as we nerd it down.
Yeah, sure.
And maybe someone didn't go to the right elementary school, but
yeah, that's with the little circles that I'm supposed to rip up.
Yeah.
I think this is like that lesson that we're seeing across many industries, many ways of living. Do you have that automation and efficiency over here? That's going to become increasingly critical. No matter what industry you are in, people are going to be expecting fast and accurate the first time. And then over here, so that you can spend more time with people, so that you can be more engaged with the clients, with the patient, with the students, with the community, whatever it is. You have to be able to do both. If you can't do both, you might be in trouble. You might get caught up in this AI wave and wondering, how the hell did that happen?
I think that's fantastic. So I want to end today, just wild card for both of us, right? What's one thing in this profession that you're real interested in right now, that you see as a trend, that excites you, the conversations you like to be part of? What's something like you want to talk about, you want to share?
Sure. So for those of you who are hanging out with me on LinkedIn, I'm constantly talking about the big organizations like the FPA, CFP board, and others that are doing a lot of this work on how should we regulate the use of AI? How should we train our students? How should these different kinds of firms interface with each other? There's a lot of really important conversations happening right now at a time when a CFP board's leadership team is going to turn over for the first time in 20 years, with Kevin Keller retiring in April of 2026. Sure. At the FPA, they're also hiring a new CEO as of the time that we're recording this.
So you're going to have new leadership, new perspectives on where this whole direction goes.
Yeah, and these are really important, critical conversations that are then affecting how these large firms are behaving, how universities like yours and CFP educators like me are going to treat folks and work with folks.
A lot of parts move and shift based on the outcomes of these big leadership decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. So then for those people who are listening who don't want to just be passive and have these changes kind of happen to them, be part of it, reach out to the board, reach out to FPA, NAPFA, these other organizations.
Volunteer and get involved. Go to the association, go to your regional association meetings for these groups, because that I think is going to be a good impact point.
Right. The more that you get involved with these things, the more influence you have, the stronger these organizations are. And then they're going to do what's best for us practitioners and educators, and then our clients in the whole world.
Then they'll advocate on behalf of the practitioner, right? Which is that advocacy piece is really important down the road, I think.
Yeah.
One last thing I'll tie on, just because it's been on my mind lately, and I'd like to get your sense on it. Subscription, based on working at the American College and at Illinois and being an advisor who was paid on commissions when I started my career, we still see less venomous conversations about commission versus fee, all that stuff, right? But I wonder, and I just haven't seen it happen yet. Subscription fees, hourly fees, it happens a little more, but we didn't really get there. AUM still seems to be the big fee model.
Yeah.
And so do we get there, or is that not right now?
I don't think AUM is going to go away.
No, me either.
I think that's with us to stay. I think what you might see is more fee transparency around AUM.
Okay.
I just learned recently that Canada has passed a new law requiring their version of RIAs to disclose exactly to the dollar how much are you paying for financial advice. And I think that's going to potentially really change some compensation models, as some planners are having to disclose, yeah, you paid me 30 grand this year. What? Right? That might change some things up there. And maybe we have something similar to that. To the extent that happens, or just to the extent we're talking about the fee structures, I do think we have shifted to a hybrid model. I mentioned Ashley with the Arete.
Sure.
Now it's been 10 years since I started working for him. He was using a hybrid subscription plus AUM 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So the idea there is you set some floor where you can charge every single month, which allows you to work with lower net worth clients.
It would.
And then you have the AUM, which gives you the advisor the upside as your client's wealth increases. And I am a client, right? Yeah. I'm, also eating what we're cooking here. And my financial planner, same thing, has a hybrid model of both the subscription and the AUM. I could see that becoming the standard. But yeah, AUM's not going anywhere. And I don't think commissions are going anywhere either. I don't have any problem with any given way of people making money. It's disclose how you are making money, do what is in the client's best interest. And there are commission-based fee structures that can actually be better for certain clients in certain contexts.
Absolutely. And I think when, I don't think I'll ever forget, it was in DC and it was at the National FPA meeting. And I'm on stage, and our friend Luke Dean is on stage with me, and Nathan Harness is on stage, and the three of us are on stage, and we're talking about planning, and we're talking about middle markets. And you have someone in the audience, and I don't think I'll ever forget this. They just why can't CFPs figure out middle markets? And I said, well, it's because State Farm has.
Sure.
And you would have
100%
thought
agree.
I lit that floor on fire. I got angry people coming up after that talk. I was in the hallway and someone poked me in the chest, and I'm not making that up. State Farm doesn't do planning.
Yeah.
They're not financial planners. And I
Yeah.
was like, well, here's the thing. Somebody with $40,000 in a 401k can't get in your door, and an agent's more than happy to meet with them, talk to them, and help them get some retirement advice. So my point being, commissions have a place in this business. We don't always want to pretend they do, right?
Sure.
But if someone has $1 million minimum, that's a lot of Americans that aren't going to get in that door.
It's very few. And we keep talking about how do you reach the middle market. I think we've now reached the point where the mass affluent are able to get advice.
Well, and I think AI has scaled. I mean, fintech has scaled that.
Right. FinTech certainly helped. And the subscription plus AUM fee structure, I think, is really good for them.
You see that minimum drop a little, right? $500,000, and then you know more mass affluent can get in. But I still see a commission in place for some of that.
Oh, and sure, even in the mass affluent or high net worth, right? Potentially. But even with these changes, we're still only seeing somewhere in the 15 to 25% of Americans are receiving financial planning as it's commonly defined. So to your point, right? Well, that still leaves out 75 to 85% of the population. That's a huge number of people who are not being served. And whether it's commissions on a term life insurance policy, a business model that I came up with that, to my knowledge, no one's done yet, is giving people advice and then sending them to go get credit cards, which is what NerdWallet does, and Credit Karma, when that still was around, what they did.
So then you're getting paid affiliate marketing.
You're getting paid affiliate marketing fees. Now, again, that's not to say everyone go get a credit card. Everyone needs a credit card. In the same way, I would say not everyone needs a term life insurance policy. Sure. But for the person who would benefit from that, it allows you, the advisor, to be compensated.
Or other types of marketing arrangements.
Sure.
It doesn't necessarily have to be that. Right. It could be lots of other stuff.
It's so many ways that that's a commission.
I know.
And you say that, what I just said, you say that to some people. It's like, oh my God, he wants people to predatory, da-da-da-da.
And that they will poke you in the chest in the hall.
And they will. But for the right person, the right context, that would be a way where you could get paid $500 on a referral arrangement.
Yeah.
And that same client could never afford to pay you the $500. Is that bad? I think if that person's able to meet with someone who is competent and is a fiduciary to them, go for it. Be paid how you need to be paid, so long as you have a standard of care to that client.
Well, I really enjoy that. I love how this conversation ebbed, flowed, bobbed, and weaved. This is amazing. I love it. Well, thank you so much for being here, Matt.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you.